part of the process is the struggle. And, if you're having a rough day and you're having a bad, your company's having a down month or, struggling, with a release or experiencing a big bug, the only way you're going to feel the ups is if you have those.
Welcome to UpTech Report. This is our Founders Journey series. UpTech Report is sponsored by TerraLeap. Learn how to leverage the power of video at terraleap.io. Today, I'm joined by my guest, Adam Burke, who's based in California. He's the co-founder and CEO at WorkPatterns. Welcome back, Adam. Good to have you on.
Thanks, Alex.
Now, this is part two. You should definitely go back, listen to part one, where we understood a bit more about WorkPatterns, a people management platform helping to improve team communication and accountability. The concept for this, which you already heard for part one, came from your previous venture in this concept at AdRoll, going from 3 people to 700 people, managing people as your team grew. I mean, that is the success of a company is based on the people that are there that can do the work. And what I'd like to hear, though, a bit more is the journey itself of this is, if I understood correctly, now you're on your 3rd company that you helped co-found and build. Over the years, I imagine there's a lot of lessons learned. Have you just always been involved and interested in technology? Is just from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I was, the first company, I wasn't really a co-founder. I kind of joined at a time when the company was changing. It was post .com bubble bursting, and it was changing directions. And I was part of sort of relaunching the new model. And then AdRoll, very much from the beginning, and then WorkPatterns from the beginning. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. Yeah, I mean, technology for sure. More so though, entrepreneurship and problem solving and trying to, I'm very interested. I enjoy both the ups and downs. I don't enjoy the downs, but the ups and the downs.
Who enjoys the downs?
of early stage company formation and creation, and working together to solve those problems and bring something into the world that you think solves the real problem.
Thinking back to, let's say, when you started with your co-founders AdRoll, 2007, 13, 14 years ago. Wow, time is just flying. Yeah. If you could think of one thing that you could share with yourself then, something that you've learned and realize now, but you didn't then, what would you tell yourself?
And I could tell myself back in 2007. I mean, I would say that. Well, I'd say that I would almost want to tell myself. I would almost want that person to tell me some stuff now. I think one thing. I think in some ways that person had certain wisdom that, is easy to forget in the sense that, in your second, third venture, the expectations are a lot higher, that you'll be able to figure it out and that you'll be successful. And, I think I had, I had a little bit more, at, the last time around, more in it for, just lower expectations, I guess. Everyone expected us to fail and, and anything else would be outside. Now it's kind of flipped.
It's an interesting point you make, you have a success. Now on to the next one, that expectation of success just suddenly amped up for you, for everyone around you. How do you handle that? How do you be able to manage that expectation?
It's hard. Yeah. I mean, honestly, for as a personal share, it's hard. And it's something that I've been trying to work on lately and catch myself and just remind myself that, about 2 things. One, that whether, the company is successful or not successful, won't have any indication of whether or not it's due to a bill, anything related to my, of course it will, I'll have a impact on it, but my self-worth, it shouldn't be dictated. Starting stuff is really hard. Most fail. Most second time ventures fail. So, trying to just remind myself that, and disconnect myself from it being all about my self-worth. And secondly, it's a little bit, it feels like a fortune cookie thing a little bit, but like it is about the journey and it is about the process. And part of the process is the struggle. And, if you're having a rough day and you're having a bad, your company's having a down month or, struggling, with a release or experiencing a big bug, the only way you're going to feel the ups is if you have those. And so, you gotta just, put it in perspective and know that's going to be a part of it. There is no experience without those. No one just crushes it all day in and out. And if you did, you're just, your dopamine would be at that level. And that's just, that would feel normal to you. So try to remind myself of that. And then like, thirdly, you said it also, and you said it earlier and you've said it a couple times, but like again, one of those, like, it feels almost like trite to say, but it truly is all about the people and the relationships that you develop along the way. And that is like core to our product and something I try to keep in mind. And like, I have friends for life from, the previous company, and, going into battle with those folks. And that's a crucible for building relationships. And, we're earlier in on this experience, but I'm sure, so the same relationships will emerge. And, it's been awesome to see, all those people who I met through the last journey also, start other, other employees start other companies and come to me for whatever, input I can provide, and having, and other people they met, so there's a whole network and community that we kind of help create and foster. And so that's just like the most rewarding thing of the whole experience. And hopefully something that, I can, hopefully something that's something I think I have more control over, making sure I have strong relationships with the people.
The people, as you mentioned, it's like, yes, it's crucial right from the beginning. But you mentioned with AdRoll, this start with three of you guys, and both now with WorkPattern co-founding it. How do you find good co-founders? That's always a question. Everyone wonders. Okay, you just come across them? Are they friends? And how do you say, okay, you're the right one? We're going to make a good team.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've done that the two companies were two totally different ways. So AdRoll were people that I had been friends with for, since I moved to San Francisco. So, that would have been like 7 years, people I knew for like 7 years and was friends with, and were like Jared and Aaron were like two people that like I, definitely wanted to do something with. And so when they kind of proactively came to me, it kind of made the decision kind of easy. In fact, it wasn't really an industry that I wanted to necessarily be in. I thought I was going to kind of move out of that world of marketing technology, but it was like, okay, well, these are the people that I want to do something with. So let's go. And so that was much more about the people and the team. And then, the problem space, candidly, was somewhat secondary. And this time around, it's more about the problem space, and then finding the people that would be the best people to kind of attack that problem with. And so, the way it ended up working this time around was getting introduced to an existing technical team that was already working on a similar problem space, and started talking with them, kind of sharing my ideas, realizing that we had very complementary skill sets, which was a big learning from the first time around, where it's really helpful if you're complementary and not kind of stepping on each other's toes, because there is so much to do, and if there's high like Venn diagram overlap and skill sets, there's probably a big area you're missing. And so having met a very strong technical team that was very interested in a two-person technical team that was very interested in this problem space, and my being able to bring the operational experience and having been in the seat of the customer and having seen how organizations operate and what different management systems can look like, it was a really nice compliment. And so, that's how we ended up joining forces this time around.
This concept of balancing out and making sure that you don't overlap too much. And interesting that you come already with another, you say a team that was building something, or like you saw that they had something that resonated with your idea.
Yeah, that's right.
Was merging that concept of your idea and their idea pretty seamless of just like, oh, we have the same thing, or was there a little bit of friction and development there?
I mean, like I think the most important thing was that, we had like a similar North Star, which was like, uh, how can you bring data and technology into people management to make it more human and effective? And yes, absolutely. We just had our first, like, Monday, Tuesday this week, we had our first offsite or onsite, with everybody in the same place. And yeah, we're hashing out and debating all sorts of things and priorities, and should we do A or B or C? And so that's just kind of a natural, the details. The details are like, if you're always fully aligned, then well, you're probably missing something. So yeah, we're constantly debating things and trying to put them into frameworks and prioritize in certain ways. But the North Star is pretty solid, which is what's really key.
Your strengths, you mentioned, is operations, and I see your previous role is CMO at role.
Yeah.
So it comes from the marketing side and then the overall operations.
Yeah, I mean, customer facing, stuff. But yeah, having been inside a scaling and larger organization, I've seen. I wouldn't say like I'm an operational wizard. There are people who are that. I'd say, one of my greatest strengths is just like breadth, and that I do have, so maybe jack of all trades, expert at none type situation. But I've built and managed sales teams. I've done business development myself. I've been involved in enterprise sales. I've been a marketer, a CMO, building a marketing team of 40, 50 people. And I've had product roles. So
being able to take insights from across those different pieces, I mean, it's crucial if you want to be able to run a new startup. Your lessons learned when you think back, and even learning them right now, I'm sure, being able to bring a product to market, to get interest, to get people on board, especially when you're starting, what tactics worked for you in the past, and kind of resonate with capturing that initial attention, getting people on board?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way around the first handful of customers just being like hand-to-hand combat and like face-to-face. And obviously, with AdRoll, I didn't have as much of a network, as it were, to go to. And so, like, we went to trade shows, and I would, hit the floor and have to like go around and just talk to people and try to, find people who what we were working on resonated. And that was hard work. But you get a lot of very clear, very salient feedback. And so there was a lot of that. Obviously, there aren't trade shows now, but like our starting point were people that I had developed relationships with. I had a cohort of other people who were also executives and founders and managers, and some of the people that I mentioned who had of those 700 employees, that we had a lot of managers there who had gone on to be high level managers at other companies. And so I had kind of a really good group of people that we could kind of talk to initially, and not sell anything to, but show prototypes, show demos, and over time we said, okay, well, now actually use it with your team. And then over time, it's like, okay, if you're actually using for it, here's what we're thinking of charging. And there's a whole evolution that you can go on. But yeah, I think it all starts with hand-to-hand combat, and having getting those one-on-one conversations. And it's how you do that is going to sort of depend on who you are as a person, and the access that you have. And for some it might have to be a bit more cold, and for some others it might be a bit more warm.
You mentioned going to trade shows as kind of the first guerrilla place of just making it happen. Yeah, that's been a little hard in the last year, and a lot of questions are like, should we go back to investing in trade shows and being able to show up places like that? Where do you see as marketing opportunities go, and being able to do more guerrilla hand-to-hand opportunities of getting that first word out?
Yeah, it's hard to be honest, and it moves really fast these days. There's a great like Andrew Chen blog post from years ago now, but it's called the law of shitty click throughs. And basically, it's basically the idea that like when you discover any new marketing channel, the the response rate, click through as a proxy for that is going to be great because it's unpenetrated, and then there's always going to be this natural decline as it becomes saturated and people figure it out. And it feels like that cycle is just like accelerated these days. And the window of time in which there a channel is is like unpenetrated is like really small. And so, I think the way that, this is something we're trying to figure out, frankly, and I don't think we've cracked it. I think at a high level, the way though that I'm thinking about it is to try to maybe not try to play the game of like racing into the new, not trying to like, okay, Clubhouse is having a moment. I mean, by all means, we were talking about, oh, should we do something in Clubhouse? Going, like whatever. But I think the lesson that, by the time we were ready and had a plan to do that and, had bandwidth, it was already like, well, is that really still the best thing to, so like, I think instead of getting into that game of like, how can we, be the first in some channel, is like to focus on quality and focus on like, just creating and, putting out content that, is genuinely useful. And, in terms of what the distribution channels for that ends up being, we can be then, fairly flexible and dynamic. But yeah.
Look in your history of content created, what was the best piece of content that was created that got the most interest and worked really well?
Yeah, well, two things come to mind when you ask that. One is, man, there was a explainer video that I just to date myself on a flip cam that I just literally stood in front of a whiteboard and explained how ad targeting worked, essentially. And that just dominated for so long. And I think it's because it was authentic. It wasn't glossy. It wasn't meant to be. It didn't have. It had
just
an agenda
in front of a whiteboard, just drawing. This is how advertising works.
Yeah, and the various intermediaries, and and just some simple concepts. And I think going back to like mistakes made. I think we moved away from that a bit later. It was almost like a curse, in that we had more resources and more.
You made it too shiny.
And yeah, like and things took a bit longer and were a bit produced, and yeah, people have a bit, a great BS detector, and they know what marketing content looks like. I mean, that was the other thing. Like I was a marketer marketing a marketing technology product to other marketers who are the buyer, right? Like, so like, these are people who are like, hey, I know exactly what you're doing here. Like, this is content marketing. You're doing this type of gated content so that you can put me in a funnel. I'm super attuned to everything that's going on. So, especially in that audience, I think, and I hear, similar stuff to people who market to developers who are, don't want your glossy sales presentation at all. They want to get in the product, and see how it works.
Who wants glossy?
I think
I'm curious, like as one who's experienced in marketing, is there a category of market that doesn't mind the glossy shine? Is that just general consumers? Is that where shine comes in?
I think authenticity resonates with general consumers as well. And I don't think that necessarily means you don't have budget or you don't produce things well. I think of like the Dollar Shave video, which was super famous. Like, that was well produced. That was, that looked like a commercial, but it was very authentic. And, the personality came through in the same way that like, that I could come through perhaps in just the quick cam video to a more niche audience, but in a similar way. So I don't think when I say glossy, I guess I don't necessarily mean unproduced or I mean produced, or that it doesn't.
That underlying
well
message, and approach,
and authenticity,
authenticity. So for you, part of it is marketing. The other part is the team, which is what your entire focus is on, is building, providing a tool that allows you to build good teams. But then it also is your vision of like how you spend your time. And I'm just curious, as a leader, what your typical day looks like. Like when you wake up in the morning, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm all over the place right now. I mean, we're still relatively early stage. So, I frankly, I like that, going back to, my career, having, I like, I think one of my strengths is being able to do a diverse set of things like reasonably well. I'm great at getting to like a B+ level at things. So maybe if I had to frame I feel like there's a blog post in there, like the power of being a generalist. There's such emphasis on being like narrow and deep these days, from even like, parenting and bringing, like, okay, you're going to be a world-class golfer at age, whatever. There's a lot of power these days in being a generalist and being a B+ at a lot of things. And so that's a lot of what my day is like. Today I'm talking to you. I'm having 3 one-on-ones with different people on my team. I'm doing a lot of admin stuff, setting us up to, now that people have that we're like, we were always remote, but now people are in different states, and so there's a lot of intrastate taxation stuff that I need to just deal with. I'm writing up some spec work that came out of the offsite, based on the priorities that we identified. I want to get that a little bit more granular and specific. So yeah, really a lot of context shifting and jumping to different areas, but I like that. That suits me well.
If there had to be a book, audiobook, podcast, or other resource that you have resonated with and enjoy in the past as a leader, anything that you can recommend?
Yeah, I mean, the classics that have always stuck with me, are, the Jim Collins stuff. Like, I don't think these are going to be original ideas, but, Built to Last, and Good to Great, those types of books, like those business classics, just have stuck with me. The Clay Christensen stuff as well around disruption has stuck with me. I think that was sort of a playbook that we ran at the last company where, at AdRoll, where, there was a lot of sophisticated ad technology for very high end of the market. And we were one of the first to kind of try to democratize that and build something that was simpler and easier to use. And, it was one of those situations where there was just this was pre, the wave of DTC and direct to consumer brands. And we were kind of right place, right time in recognizing that, and that we were building something that was really easy to use for any size brand. And that really resonated with that type of customer. So, that type of stuff. And in a way, we're doing some of the similar things with WorkPatterns, where, there are enterprises, large, multi-thousand organizations have, very sophisticated systems and processes for this stuff. We've similarly identified sort of this market in sort of like 50 to 250 organizations that have outgrown informal systems. And, you can't go and like sign up for a free trial of Workday, these enterprise systems. So we see an opportunity to kind of really solve that problem and move up market over time.
That's an interesting also approach, is like looking for ways to disrupt it by how is it traditionally done of they can't get free software from the bottom up. So let's actually come at it from the bottom up so that it actually can trickle forth. Well, I'm excited for the journey in many ways. You said this is just beginning. You have a lot of adventures to come, but I appreciate you sharing just a few of those lessons learned from your past, from your experience, and excited to see where you go next. So thank you, Adam, for this.
Oh man, thanks for your time, Alex. My pleasure.
Definitely go back, listen for those to part 1 so you could hear a bit more about WorkPatterns and the people management simplified, which is their approach. You can also go to workpatterns.com, and we'll see you all on the next episode of UpTech Report. Have you seen a company using AI, machine learning, or other technology to transform the way we live, work, and do business? Go to uptechreport.com and let us know.